Put on your green mullets, everyone. This week on Cartoon Dumpster Dive, we cover the cartoon Captain Planet and the Planeteers. The power is yours. Joel, I learned a lot this week.
Yeah, Andrew, what kind of stuff did you learn?
I learned a lot about the environment and how, do you know the planet is dying?
That's what they keep telling me, Andrew.
It's been dying since 1990 and not a moment sooner.
Well, isn't every planet slowly dying?
I don't know. I've only been to this one.
I mean, what they say, suns are slowly dying out. Like,
those aren't planets; those are stars.
I know, but you would assume that planets will have a life shelf as well.
That's true. I mean, people think that Mars is just a post-apocalyptic planet that used to have life on it.
Ooh, aliens.
Ooh. Do you think Captain Planet cares about other planets? Because he's not Captain Earth. He's Captain Planet.
Maybe Captain...
And other planets have earth, wind, water, fire, and heart.
Maybe Captain Planet is like John Johns. Maybe he's the last Martian and is coming to Earth to warn us of what happened to his planet.
Well, then why does he have such a good relationship with Gaia, the mother of the earth?
Because isn't Gaia just Mother Nature?
Yeah, she's more or less. If you whittle it down, she's Mother Earth.
Think about it.
It's also like
Mars,
the goddess of Earth.
Yeah, like Mars, his planet was devastated thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. He met Mother Earth. They bonded, they clicked, hung out, had some tea, whatever it is. Maybe that's why. I don't know.
Maybe you're right. But this week, so the one main thing that I really learned about this entire series is the song that everyone knows from Captain Planet. That's the outro.
Isn't that wild?
That's the outro. And I was like, what?
Until this day.
That's the outro and we'll get into this, but from both studios.
Until this
that's
day,
the outro.
I would have said that.
I thought that was the opening.
Yeah.
I have thought that was the opening my entire fucking life. So here's what I wanted to ask you. So when we go to review that theme song, do you A, want to do the opening of both studios, which is Deke Entertainment and Hanna-Barbera, or do you just want to review the outro, or do you just want to do them all?
That's a good question, Andrew. Let's do the Deke and then the outro. Let's do that first, and then maybe at the end of the episode, maybe we'll just throw in the Hanna-Barbera intro.
Okay.
Perfect. Because we're here.
Let's listen.
Yeah, we're here to talk about
ourselves a listen.
The Planeteers, Captain Planet and the Planeteers.
Yeah.
But here we go.
Our world is in peril. Gaia, the spirit of the earth, can no longer stand the terrible destruction plaguing our planet. She sends 5 magic rings to 5 special young people. Watch from Africa with the power of earth. From North America, Wheeler with the power of fire. From the Soviet Union, Minka with the power of wind. From Asia, Yi with the power of water. And from South America, Mati with the power of heart. When the 5 powers combine, they summon Earth's greatest champion, Captain Planet.
It's a solid animated intro.
Yeah, it really is. It's I mean, you got LeVar Burton who voices Kwame.
Yep.
He's
Here it
doing
is.
the narration. Oh,
Wind, water, heart, go planet!
By your powers combined, I am Captain Planet!
Captain Planet, he's our hero. Gonna take pollution down to zero. He's our powers magnified, and he's fighting on the planet side. Captain Planet, he's our hero. Gonna take pollution down to zero. Gonna help him put us under. Bad guys who like to loot and plunder.
You'll pay for this, Captain Planet!
We're the Planeteers. You can be one too. Cause saving our planet is the thing to do.
Okay, I don't think there is. I feel like there was not someone in our age range that does not know this.
no, not in its entirety.
It
There's
is
no way.
it is crazy to think that that is the outro.
Yeah, absolutely.
The intro.
I thought for years that was the intro.
I did too. So let's the intro animated beautifully. It's surprising
Yeah.
that it's from Deke.
I think the creators of this property, they had a lot of say in the production of Captain Planet, and we'll get into it. They had a lot of say in the merchandise, because this is a very rare edutainment cartoon, but also it's a Reagan show because you're not gonna make you're gonna make merchandise off of this.
Yeah,
Clearly, it's a superhero show.
You got to make money. It's so strange because I would put an asterisk beside the Reagan episode because
That's what I mean.
Yeah, because
it's like it is, but it isn't.
because the goal wasn't to sell merchandise. It was just
it was to have children be aware
literally
about the ramification, like not even like just be aware of pollution and be environmentally conscious.
But
that's it.
But they knew that to get kids more involved in Captain Planet, kids gonna want to play with toys and things like that. It was, it was still a way for them to educate children about, pollution and things like that, and kind of raise money, but not for the sole purpose of raising money. So it's like kind of.
Yeah, it wasn't to line their pockets. Like this wasn't a show to line a producer or a production company's pockets. It was a means to an end.
Yep.
For environmental awareness.
Yep. And honestly, I'll go and tell you this, Deke had some money in this.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't
This is around the heyday for sure.
Well, it wasn't just their money, Andrew, that they had. They had big money funding
Who
this
else
project.
we talking?
Just a little man named Ted Turner. You ever heard of him?
Ah, yes. Owner of everything, Ted Turner.
Basically owns all of Atlanta, Ted Turner.
Yeah. You know what's, it's still crazy to me that Cartoon Network exists because Ted Turner he had no idea what he bought. He bought all of Hanna-Barbera cartoons and just was like, I'll just put these on a fucking network because I own everything. Like, that's it. Your childhood exists because some rich dickhead bought all of Hanna-Barbera and just had the power to put it all on TV, and then that made money, and then he was able to just make more stuff.
So I like to think about this. Have you ever watched the show on HBO, Succession?
Yeah.
Basically, Ted Turner, that's Logan. Probably.
Oh, so yeah, I don't know anybody's name. I guess I lied to you. I've never watched Succession.
heard about it.
I've seen trailers when I was watching other stuff on Max.
Like, it's
I
just...
hear it's good.
Ted Turner is just rich. Because, I mean, you just mentioned he bought Hanna-Barbera, basically started Cartoon Network, which is probably one of the most recognizable...
Like, for fun.
He owns the Atlanta Braves.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Dude, Ted Turner is just so filthy rich. Atlanta Braves, Time Warner. I mean, it's just CNN.
The list goes on.
Dude, it's crazy. Ted Turner's just a rich.
There's a
dude.
joke about it in one of the episodes of Aqua Teen Hunger Force, where a time traveler named Time Warner
Yep.
comes and he's just like, I own that too. I own that, and I own that.
Well, you remember the joke in Futurama, the lost city of Atlanta?
Yeah.
Well, they talk about Ted Turner got so tired of like pollution, because Ted Turner, that's the thing. Ted Turner is a big like advocate about like pollution and stuff like that. He's like a big what's that, activist when it came to like pollution, and really teaching people about this. But Futurama had that joke that he basically got somehow uplifted all of Atlanta to put it in the ocean.
He was
Him and Jeff Foxworthy.
I think it was about like tourism or something. Is that why Robot Chicken had that one sketch where Ted Turner dresses up as Captain Planet and starts murdering a bunch of people?
Yes.
I did not know he was an environmental activist.
Oh, Ted Turner, yeah. So, and that's kind of how this show came about was, all right, so let me just kind of tell you the players at hand, and then we'll talk a little bit about this. So this series, this cartoon, was created by Ted Turner and Barbara Powell, okay? Or Plow, sorry. It was developed by Barbara, Nicholas...
I think it's Barbara Pyle.
Pyle, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Barbara Powell.
No.
Powell. That's just a tough name.
I've never gotten a last name right on this fucking show ever. Don't worry about it. You gotta apologize to me.
So the ideas were created by Ted Turner and Barbara. It was developed by Barbara, Nicholas Boxer, Thorm Beers, Andy Haywood, good old Andy Haywood.
Andy Hayward.
Robbie London, Bob Ford, and Cassandra Shafis. I probably butchered that name. Total of 6 seasons, 113 episodes. Aired September 15th, 1990, ran until May 11th, 1996. And of course, Cartoon Network showed reruns, what felt like forever, on them.
Yeah.
So, now we know the players. How this thing got started is actually thanks to good old Jimmy Carter, Andrew.
Ah.
Yes.
Okay. The peanut farmer himself. Jimmy Carter's a good president.
The 39th president of these United States of America. So, before Jimmy Carter left office, he commissioned a task force to come up with something that was called the Global 2000 Report to the President. This was basically a task force he created to kind of project in 20 years, because this article or these documents were released in 1980, but basically it warned that the world population growth would have dramatic consequences by the year 2000 if no changes were to happen. And it kind of started with like public policies, like, hey, we need policies in place to combat these changes, or they referenced it as the Doomsday Report. Because by 2000, all these things were going to happen and cause like horrible problems for the entire world if things did not change. Okay?
Okay.
This report, Barbara read this report, was so moved by it, was so, I guess, her eyes were open at that point that she actually started becoming an activist.
Okay.
And she actually started doing a lot of like media stuff. So she actually started doing documentaries, things like this, to the point where she became like a big player in governments and all these, I guess, bigger circles as being someone who was like an activist of change, trying to protect the planet and everything else. Okay?
Okay.
Into Ted Turner. Ted Turner also wanted to protect the planet, and he was like, you know what? Get that lady Barbara in here. Barbara came in, and he was just like, he wanted her to make something that would be recognizable, like just something to kind of teach the next generations the turmoils of polluting.
Mm-hmm.
I actually read a interview where Barbara said that she walks in, Ted Turner basically just tells her that like the name is Captain Planet. Now it's yours. Go with it.
He said, "Look here, sugar tits."
And
we're the characters.
And he basically
Captain Planet.
He just left. He was just like, "It's Captain Planet. Now it's yours. Run with it," and just walks out.
Wow. I mean, somebody handed me a pile of money and told me the name of my creation and just walked the fuck out. I'd let them know.
Okay. But then, so really, Barbara, from there, and like, you know, I read some more article or more interviews where Barbara said that, like, at one point Ted said that he didn't want to find like a cartoon producer and turn them activists. He wanted to find an activist turn producer to make the show.
Okay.
So
yeah,
it would,
that's not a bad idea.
So it would actually make more of an impact. So she really, you know, she started collecting the team together, all those different developers that I talked about, to come up with an idea, a show that would teach kids, the future generations, about the harm of pollution, and how to take care of the planet, but also with a focus of teaching their parents as well. So it wasn't just for the kids. It was also supposed to teach, you know, the older generation about this.
Okay.
I read one interview with Barbara where she was asked, or she made the comment that people always came up to her and said, "How on earth did you make all this stuff up?" And her reply is, "Well, we didn't make it up. Each of the episodes were based off of like what was really going on in the world and different cultures at that time."
Even the Planeteers are based off of real people.
They are.
More or less.
Yeah, she actually knew, because she was a big activist at this time, she knew other kind of known activists, and she based these characters off of these real life people.
So, like, the character of Guy was inspired by Malaysian environmentalist activist Che Yok Ling. Mai Tai was inspired by Paulinho Pakikan. I butchered that. I apologize. Wheeler was said to be Pyle's father because he was the least environmentally aware.
Yep.
Kami was inspired by survivors of the Rhodesian Bush War. And, yeah, that's basically it.
Yep. And one last thing I wanted to say before we talk about the voice actors, because
we'll get into it.
It's crazy. One thing I thought was interesting was They actually said, because they realized that like big corporations, that in this cartoon, it was going to show a lot of like big corporations being the enemy and stuff like that. They wanted to be very conscious of, they didn't want kids to feel like their parents were villains, like Captain Planet villains. So they actually said that they had to make these villains almost, ridiculous, like larger than life. So kids didn't start thinking that their parents were evil villains, which I thought I thought that was a nice touch. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
So
you don't want your, but then you learned later that the villains of Captain Planet and Baby Boomers, they're pretty similar.
Well, I mean, who I guess, according to Captain Planet and according to people, think about it, we're always blaming the generations before us for screwing up the Earth, basically.
Look,
So-
I get our generation got blamed for taking out Applebee's. You know what? I'm throwing the fucking shade. Okay. You don't remember that article?
I do know.
Where our generation ruined the diamond industry, going to the movies, sit down restaurants, and a whole bunch of other shit. Yeah. Fuck boomers.
Oh, about how millennials...
I wish I could ruin more
I
things
gotcha.
that they love.
I remember the one saying that we ruined Hooters, which I'm okay with.
I think Hooters
Ruined
ruined
them.
Hooters by not making good food and focusing too much. You can't focus. Look, even strip clubs have good breakfast. So you gotta have good food. That's the law of the land. Before we get into the voice cast, because this kind of leads to it. So in 1993, Captain Planet does switch to a new production company, the Ted Turner's own Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
And it was on the Sunday morning front block of TV, along with SWAT Cats, The Radical Squadron, which is a show we did cover, and Two Stupid Dogs. One thing that there are a few changes, not many, from the Hanna-Barbera season to this one. One, the synth rock soundtrack that Deke used was replaced with a number of orchestral pieces. The intro narration is now done by David Corbin, who voices Captain Planet, rather than LeVar Burton.
Yep.
And in the final season, it was replaced with a rap by Fred Schneider of the B-52s.
Love Shack, baby.
All right. So, the voice cast we're kind of doing something a little different this time around. So I'm not doing anybody's extra work because the first seasons on Deke's production, they had celebrities voice them. So we're going to go through like everything.
Yeah.
So we're basically going to learn who voiced it in season 1 through 3, which is Deke, and then 4 through 6, which is Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
So the voice cast of Captain Planet and the Planeteers and the New Adventures of Captain Planet, I guess. Gaia was voiced by Whoopi Goldberg and then Margaret Kidder.
Okay.
Captain Planet has always been voiced by David Coburn.
No.
What, really? Who voiced him first?
There was 6 episodes recorded with Tom Cruise as Captain Planet.
No.
Yes.
I
But
did not see that anywhere.
this is what's crazy. Tom Cruise recorded 6 episodes as Captain Planet for the Deke version, but then he bailed and they re-recorded it with that guy.
Okay. Well, damn.
There's your little
Joel's-
tidbit.
There you go. So, Kwame, voiced by LeVar Burton. Wheeler, voiced by Joey Dido. Linka, voiced by Cass Sochi. Gee, voiced by Janice Quay. Maite, voiced by Scott Menville, and his pet spider monkey, Suchi, is voiced by Frank Welker. Now, here's where we get into the celebrities. So, Hoggish Greedley is only voiced by Ed Eisner.
Okay.
The whole time.
Yep.
Whole time, Ed Eisner. His henchman, Rigger, is voiced by John Ratzenberger, who you might know from the guy who's always in the Pixar movie.
Yep.
This is the one that tripped me out the
Cheers
most.
as well. He was on Cheers.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, he was in Cheers. Verminous Scum was originally voiced by Jeff Goldblum and then Maurice LaMarche. Dr. Barbara Babs Blight is voiced by Meg Ryan and then by Mary Kay Bergman. Maul, which is her AI, is actually voiced by David Rappaport in the 1991, and then from then on is voiced by Tim Curry. Loot and Plunder is voiced by James Corbin, and then by Ed Gilbert. We have Sly Sludge, voiced by Martin Sheen, and then Jim Cummings. And then finally we have Zarm, voiced by Sting. And then David Warner, and then Michael McDowell.
So just for I know Dusty is probably listening to this. Dusty, we're talking about the singer Sting, not the wrestling Sting.
Oh, this is a perfect opportunity. He just sent us our trailer. So play the Flicks and Friends trailer now.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Flicks and Friends podcast. I'm Dustin.
I'm Paul.
And I'm Sean. Join us each week as we sift through movies and discuss a variety of theme months and determine whether they're blockbusters or blockbusted.
Previous themes include Animation Month, 80s horror, and under 10% on Rotten Tomatoes, just to name a few. We have weekly guests, fan favorites, and new guests happen all the time over here. So buckle up and enjoy the ride.
But until next time, I'm still Dustin.
And I'm still Paul.
And I'm Sean.
And this is the Flicks and Friends podcast.
I told him we'd do it. That's the perfect time. Just surprise you guys in the middle. And also, my personal favorite villain, who's also voiced by David Coburn, and this will let us now begin to talk about the show. Captain Pollution.
Captain Pollution, yep.
So, as we all know, it's Earth, Wind, Fire, Water, Heart. That's what makes Captain Planet. What makes Captain Pollution?
All right, what makes Captain Pollution, Andrew? Sludge, carbon dioxide.
Super radiation, deforestation, smog, toxic, and hate.
Oh, okay.
Another thing, Duke Nukem, the spelling of his name was changed briefly to avoid a copyright from the game Duke Nukem. But then
I wasn't a fan of Duke Nukem being a villain in this show as a kid.
Well, I mean, he made himself a radioactive the thing.
Well, I know, but I'm talking about, like, I didn't like that they named that character Duke
Nukem. Oh.
Yeah, because to me, I'm like, Duke Nukem was the hero of the video game.
He?
You mean
his own games?
You mean I came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum.
I'm gonna rip your head off and shit down your neck.
Yeah, as a kid, Duke Nukem was the coolest.
If you are 11 or 12 years old, Duke Nukem is rad.
Yeah, exactly.
So, here's the thing. I thought about this. Here would be, if you were to think of a new Captain Planet villain in today's world, in the world of 2024 now.
Okay.
One of them
Do
would...
we need to explain the plot of Captain Planet?
Sure, we can do that very briefly. So Gaia, the Earth Mother, has realized that the planet is fucked, more or less.
Because of pollution.
Because of pollution. So she creates 5 magic rings and sends them out to 5 youths across the world. And they can use them individually, but when shit goes down, they can combine their powers, and Captain Planet shows up, and it's Power Rangers rules. They start with the initial rings, just like the Power Rangers fight the putties, and then Captain Planet shows up, just like the monster shows up, and then Captain Planet and the Planeteers have to work together, and just like in Power Rangers, the monster gets big, and they bring out the Megazord. It's the same episode every time, more or less,
easy
except
enough.
for like, although Captain Planet did win some awards.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the initial plot. One thing that does, so as I was saying, there's definitely a Captain Planet villain who's misinformation, and he is a podcaster. I don't know,
like this day and age.
Yeah, if there was a 2024 villain, he would be a podcast villain. Absolutely. Okay. And I'm not going to say he's based off of Alex Jones, but I'm not saying that there would, they call him something like, be something like Havoc Wave or Pod Crashter.
They might just call it Misinformation Dude.
It would be a lady then. It'd be a lady podcaster.
Yeah.
Or no, it'd be a duo. So it'd be Misinformation and
Misinformation.
Mr. Misinformation?
No, Miss, like MISS.
Yeah.
Information.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would have Jerry.
Misinformation and Jerry. Like jerry rigging? I don't know.
I don't know.
No, gerrymandering. That's what they call that. But anyway, yeah, because what's one of the biggest threats to our environment that nobody really ever talks about is like there are people who get on podcasts and say that global warming's a hoax and it doesn't exist. There's definitely a villain that Captain Planet would have to deal with in the Planeteers. And it would not be that ridiculous of a concept, because if you look at what the villains are doing in Captain Planet, and it makes sense why they had to make them so ridiculous. They're just polluting to pollute.
Yeah.
There's no ulterior motive other than
they just want to be evil.
Like the Hoggish Greedley literally makes a factory, and all it makes is smog. Like he just burns styrofoam.
he there's no merchandise.
There's no
product.
His
product is smog.
Yeah, he's a smog creator. Duke Nukem, I mean, he's literally
radiation.
Yeah, he's literally a radioactive man who goes out of his way to not wear. Because if you look at most radioactive villains, they wear like a lead suit or something, unless the shit goes down and then they use it. Not Duke Nukem. He's out in the open, just fucking filling everybody with yellow cake uranium.
Andrew, you basically just described the Hulk.
I did just describe the Hulk. He's one of the few villains that can take on Captain Planet.
Yeah.
Most of them cannot, which I thought was pretty
Andrew,
cool.
I found it funny that you thought about what would be a modern day villain.
Yeah.
Because I thought, who would be like modern day, like who would be like the real life Planeteers and Captain Planet. Like, let's say if Gaia was real, and if she was just like, we have to put an end to climate change, sends out the ring, who would she pick?
Greta Thunberg, right?
So she is on there. So I did a list, Andrew.
Okay. So I had a villain, you have the heroes. Okay, let's hear them.
So my tie.
Yeah. So Hart.
Yeah. He would be Al Gore.
He would be Al Gore. Does that mean that also another villain would be Man Bear Pig?
Probably.
Yeah.
There we go. Kwame would be Bono.
Okay.
Okay.
Not a very diverse list we got going on.
Oh, just you wait.
Okay.
Actually, it's really not. It's not. But anyways, but no, what we're not talking about. This isn't. We're not trying to make a woke TV show.
No, we're not trying to let the liberals win.
No. This is just Gaia is real, and she's like, I gotta call the Earth's mightiest
I got you. I feel you.
So Linka would be Greta Thunberg. Okay. So I had to think, who would be her Willa? Because Linka,
in the later seasons, they form a relationship.
Exactly, and I figured it out. Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh. Joel, you dog.
He's an activist.
That's not why you picked him, but yes, he is an activist.
It just fits perfectly. He's the perfect one. And then I got Guy, right? Guy would be the Dave Matthews Band. The entire band.
They share a ring.
They share a ring.
So what made you want to pick which one with the elements?
There was no thought besides Willa and Linka.
Okay, gotcha.
And you know who Captain Planet would be? They would all get together and summon Captain Planet, and Captain Planet would be Elon Musk.
But is Elon Musk an environmental activist?
Andrew, he started Tesla. Clean
lithium
energy.
mining isn't exactly good for the environment, but
I'm sorry, he started Tesla. He's got all these other wind farm projects. He's got satellites to help people. Look, and let's face it, he would be the real Captain Planet, the true Captain Planet, because he is like the world's richest man. So if someone could change it, maybe he could.
I don't think the by your powers combined really hits as hard with a South African accent, but yeah,
it really does not.
Combined.
But that would be my version of
that's
real life.
Pretty solid lineup. So now you got me thinking of what other villains would they face. So
in modern day.
Yeah, because there's always going to be, there would need to be a lobbyist villain, which I believe there was one anyway.
I think it was like just the dude. Like, not like he wasn't anything but just a rich dude, basically.
Yeah. It's Jeff Bezos.
Big Pharma, that would be one.
Oh, yeah, Big Pharma, that would be one. Ooh, what would a Big Pharma villain look like? Would he be a doctor? The pharma psycho-ness.
The pharma psycho.
The pharma psycho.
That's
it's
good.
Just like, we'll mark up the prices of... He'd be he would be the guy...
That one dude.
He owns the rights to diabetes. Not diabetes, but the diabetes medication, the insulin shots, and he made them like $800. He would be the pharma psycho.
He would be that dude. Yeah.
Oh man, we could do that all day. We could think of modern Captain Planet stuff. So, like we said earlier in the episode, though, this is like a sort of kind of Reagan show.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring that up because there was actually issues with the initial toy line. So
Yep.
when they were making the toys, originally they did them regular, plastic. But what did you say her name was? Barbara Pyle.
Yep.
She wanted them to be made out of recyclable materials. So they, because she wanted, you got to give this woman credit. She put her money where her mouth was. She didn't do anything that would go against the message. Because if you have a show that's supposed to teach kids to be conscious of the environment, and then you abuse the environment to make these toys, then you're kind of a hypocrite. But she was like, no, they have to be recyclable, made out of reusable material. That way we're not a bunch of fucking jackasses. Like, you can't.
Credit where credit is due. That is very true.
And so another thing is there's a Captain Planet Foundation. It was shut down due to the challenge and merger with AOL. And then in 2007, CPF acquired the rights to the Captain Planet Foundation itself required the rights to the episodes and was able to get itself back going again.
Yeah.
So the organizational board has Laura Turner, the daughter of Ted Turner, and Barbara Pyle herself.
They're still running strong to this day. That's pretty incredible.
They're still going pretty good.
Yeah.
In 1990, the Los Angeles Times, which is weird. I find this a very weird note.
Okay.
That the Los Angeles Times said it was not very original, didn't have a lot of originality. Or there wasn't a lot of, but they said there was a lot of passion behind the series. What I don't understand, what else was like Captain Planet before Captain Planet? Other than the fact that he's a superhero, what is like Captain Planet?
Maybe that's in their mind, that's what they was talking about. It's just the fact that it's just a hero that beat up the villain of the week.
Yeah,
nothing special about that. But it is kind of one of those things when you look at it. I guess for us, when we got the history, we know what the purpose of it was.
Yeah,
it is there was no other show like this.
No. And it's just also it was criticized for being extremely leftist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew, it was. Yeah, it's not a fact. It's not neither here nor there. I don't want to cause any beef with any of our maybe more right leaning listeners, but it has been proven that you guys, the right doesn't really care too much about the environment, so to speak. But that's neither here nor there.
I had one guy tell me something, and he basically just hit me with, throughout history. So if you believe in the Earth is millions of years old, there's been ice ages, there's been all these other big climate change events. This is just one of those. And
yeah.
I'm not going to lie. When he hit me with that, I was just like, all right, nope. I get it.
It's hard to say. And I know that your finance degree and my IET degree don't really translate into us knowing about climate change. And it's not something that I feel like this cartoon podcast is really equipped enough to discuss.
Maybe climate change is the wrong word to call it, because to me, you call it climate change. Then those people who think about we've had ice ages, and then from that ice age, it got hot enough, like so hot to melt all this ice.
I think we fucked up when they originally called it global warming, because it's not just global warming.
Maybe.
So,
but here's my question to you, Andrew,
Okay.
because you watched this show as a kid.
I
So
did.
did I.
I loved it.
Yeah. But did you actually, like, I feel like it did kind of like teach me, like, okay, pollution is bad.
Yeah.
But did you ever actually pick up on what you were supposed to be doing to help fight pollution, or was it just that you knew pollution was bad?
Well, no, they had those things at the end. I can't remember what they were actually called, but they had, it was like the G.I. Joe knowing is half the battle thing, but it was different ways that you could recycle and help your community in different ways. And I do remember that. And I do know that I don't know if I equate this to Captain Planet or not, but I am very conscious of my trash when I am out.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's Captain Planet. I don't know if that's just common courtesy. But I also know that when I see somebody littering, I get pissed off. Like, I get pissed off pretty bad.
I think what Captain Planet did for the majority of people our age is just teach us not to litter.
Yeah, that's kind of a pretty good. And I'm sure that there's a few people who equate Captain Planet to really, I don't want to say opening their eyes, but maybe they saw Captain Planet and learned more.
Yeah.
And they became environmental activists themselves.
Probably. I'm sure. You think about how many people this show reached, the probability of that happening, it's not unlikely. So I'm sure it did happen.
It also had video games.
Yeah.
They weren't really that good. There was one that came out for the Nintendo, or the Nintendo Entertainment System. There's another one that came out for the Sega Mega Drives. Captain Planet appears as a playable character in the fighting game Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion for the Nintendo 3DS, Wii, PS3, and Xbox 360. He also had a run in Marvel comic books through October 1991 to October 1992, and his last animated appearance was in a crossover with OKKO in 2017, where both David Corbin and LeVar Burton reprised their respective roles. And that's it. The episode is called The Power Is Yours. It aired on October 9th, 2017. And that was basically it.
There have been people have tried making like live action stuff.
I was gonna get to that.
Okay, what was you going to say about it?
I fucking lost it. Shit.
Cause I read a thing.
Okay, yeah, multiple attempts.
Yep.
Have been made to make as early as 1996.
Okay.
There have been attempts to make
crazy.
a live action Captain Planet movie. Boxer and Pyle wrote a film adaptation in Captain Planet, originally titled Captain. 5 years later, Michael Reeves revived the concept as a dark planet or planet. The storyline was darker than the series, set in a post-apocalyptic time period, very appropriate for the 90s. However, the script was lost when Turner and Warner Brothers merged in 1996. The film reached the design stage before it was abandoned. Other attempts for the film were made in 2007, 2011, and 2013, but none of them have come to any kind of fruition. In October 2016, this series has a lot of stuff in October. I don't know if you've picked up on
strange.
that. Paramount Pictures and Leonardo DiCaprio were attempting to make a new movie and in negotiations with Joe Matt and Glenn Powell to write the script. As of now, we have heard nothing about the film's adaptation. Powell claims that hurdles with the Warner Brothers Discovery merger need to be cleared before they go anywhere forward with the writing process.
Gotcha.
So, I don't know. It seems like mergers really fuck up the Captain Planet movie.
Oh, yeah.
Now, there is, however, Joel, and you know this because we talked about it, there is a live-action adaptation of Captain Planet.
Yep.
A Funny or Die skit starring Don Cheadle. In fact, it's a series. There's like 4 or 5.
Maybe we'll talk about it, Andrew.
Maybe we
Who
will in a
knows?
bonus episode, but before we do, you have to subscribe to our Patreon. But more importantly, I feel like it's time to go to your new recurring segment, Reviews That Save the Planet and Reviews That Suffer from Deforestation.
Wow. So, Andrew, I'm not going to read a full 1 out of 10.
Okay.
I'm going to just read, probably
Can I guess what a 1 out of 10 sounds like?
Yeah. Give me a guess. I'll tell you what. You give me your best 1 out of 10, and I'll tell you if it's kind of right on par with all the rest of them.
This goddamn show and its woke liberal agenda telling us that the planet's dying and that we gotta recycle and hold hands and get along with minorities. Also, we can just summon this silver guy. Whatever happened to Captain America? A real fucking hero. That's who I'm talking about, not some sissy who wears spandex and flies around and can't even handle a little mud. 1 out of 10.
You're kind of on par. I would say, put yourself in 2005.
Okay.
So you gotta take out like woke, the vocabulary. Like you was right on par with the message, but the vocabulary was just modern day.
So I should have used the N-word.
No. So I didn't see anybody talking about like, cause that was a big thing that they wanted to drive home about Captain Planet, was that kind of that unity that, it wasn't just one person's job. They come together to form Captain Planet. I don't see anybody discrediting that. It's more just like one person talks about like, this show is nothing but a bunch of hippie BS.
Oh, yeah, they would have used the word hippie.
Yeah, that's old school woke, basically. But no, you're not too far off on that. And then, the 10 out of 10s, because all of these are pretty lengthy, Andrew.
This is my childhood.
Yeah.
I'm the person I am today.
Bingo.
I wouldn't have even considered recycling if it weren't for Captain Planet.
There you go. It's a great educational tool, all of that stuff.
I think every child should watch Captain Planet, which is kind of lame because it's very hard to get a hold of. You have to pay for each individual episode or buy the season.
I honestly...
Even though it's owned by Paramount and I have Paramount Plus, you still have to go out of your way to buy it.
They don't want to educate people about the planet anymore, Andrew.
Not for free.
Look,
fuck that. We had our chance.
Look, I'll go and tell you. You want to see Captain Planet, you want to see what it's about, you want to get the full impact, just watch the Funny or Die one. I feel like they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, the one about Don Cheadle.
Yeah, it's good enough.
Well, Joel, I believe that wraps up our covering of Captain Planet and the Planeteers. You got any closing thoughts?
I mean, it's a cartoon that I think everybody's probably watched, or most people around our age watched growing up.
Yeah, for sure.
don't pay to watch it. You can see
No.
clips of it. I don't think it's
you
worth
can
watching it through.
you can watch it for free.
Yeah.
There are ways.
Yeah.
I hate to say watch it for free because I guess you would take money away from the Captain Planet Foundation.
No,
but
no,
also
you
at
can
the same
donate.
time,
If you want to just,
Oh,
you can
okay.
donate to the foundation directly. I'm pretty
Ah,
sure if
okay.
you bought the series now, it's probably just going to go to Paramount where they're not going to do anything.
that's
but
probably true. So
feed.
pirate it and then donate to the Captain Planet.
There you
fund.
go. Even better.
There we go.
Is that your closing remarks?
Yeah, that's my closing thoughts. Pirate it and then download to the Captain Planet Fund because they do good work
Yeah.
from what I saw.
Yep.
So I believe that wraps it all up. If you would like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/cartoondd. There we have a $5 tier, gets you access to our Discord, pins, stickers sent right to your door, bonus episodes with extended audio. We have a website, cartoondumpsterdive.com. That's the best place to send your requests. It goes straight to my email, and I check my email every day. We have a X handle, CartoonDD. We have a Facebook, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, all Cartoon Dumpster Dive. If you'd like to send us an email, you can send it to cartoondumpsterdive@gmail.com. And as finally, I'm going to try to do this.
All right.
We're a Cartoon Dumpster Dive. We're a podcast too. Giving us a 5-star review is the thing to do so we can keep doing this every day. Here's what Captain Planet has to say. We're available on all podcasting platforms, so a 5-star review would make the power ours. Have a great rest of your week.
See ya.
That was my Captain
Nice.
Planet freestyle.
Nice.
This has been a Lug Hole Podcast.